Lisa! Lisa! Wait up! I slowed down, then turned around and smiled at Emily as she hurried to catch up with me. Well, spit it out. What hot tea do you get this time? Lisa, you are not going to believe this. Eden likes you. I raised an eyebrow. Huh? You're kidding, right? No. She furiously shook her head. It's true. Yesterday afternoon, after school, I passed by the basketball court and I overheard the boys talking about it. I think the likelihood is you heard wrong, my friend. As I continued on my way to school, I couldn't stop thinking about Emily's words, as if Eden Woodson, the most popular boy in the entire school, would like me? Impossible! Had we even spoken to each other? Oh yeah, once. In the library, he asked to borrow my pen. Not to mention, his last girlfriend, Sarah, was the captain of the cheerleading squad. So, yep, you can already tell how pretty and popular she was. They only split up because she moved away. Well, look at me. Talent? Well, my coordination is 0, thanks to being short-sighted. Pretty? Nope. And my Coke bottle glasses don't help in this department. The only thing I was okay at was studying, which is why I was assigned the role of class president. Think fast. A cheerleader versus a class president? See? Figured. Throughout the day, Emily wouldn't quit insisting that what she'd heard was correct. Ugh. I know she meant well, but didn't she realize how humiliating this was for me? Even if she did hear Eden say that, he was probably just kidding around. Emily, please stop. I just want to take these tests in Mrs. Pierce's classroom, then go home. But Lisa! I gave her my best I'm being serious look, so she let out a defeated sigh, nodded, then walked away from me. Finally, peace at last. I dropped the tests off, then as I was walking back along the corridor, I saw Eden leaning against his locker as he talked to a boy on the basketball team. For some reason, curiosity got the best of me, so instead of walking past them, I found myself ducking behind the corner and eavesdropping on their conversation. So, what else are you still waiting for? Talk to her! I really want to, but I don't know. As if the most popular boy in school is dumbstruck by some girl. Who are they talking about? Could it be me? No way. Lisa, please wake up and stop being so delusional. Fact, boys like Eden would never lay an eye on girls like you. The next morning at school, I walked into class to see the boys, including Eden, chatting about last night's NBA score or something. Only Eden wouldn't quit staring at me. Did I have something on my face? My eyes met his, and then he immediately turned away and resumed the conversation with his friends like nothing happened. Huh? What did that mean? Then, during chemistry class, I kept sensing this strange feeling coming from behind, so by instinct, I turned around to check, and surprise, surprise, I saw Eden looking at me. But just like earlier, as soon as our gazes met, he stared down at his book. Okay, so that was weird. While I was thinking about his strange behavior, Emily suddenly nudged my arm. See, I told you he likes you. You should tell him you like him too, before it's too late. No thanks. But what do you mean by too late? I heard that Sarah, his ex, is coming back. Her parents divorced or something. So what? Come on, Lisa. He likes you. But I don't like him. As soon as I finished talking, I saw the teacher glancing straight at me. Oh no. Busted! He made me stand up in front of everyone and answer a question. But of course, I hadn't been listening. So I just stood there doing this open-mouthed goldfish look. Then frantically looked around to find some help with the answer. And when I peered over at Eden, oh great, he was grinning at me. This was so embarrassing. That night, I lay in bed and got lost in thoughts about Eden. Okay, so I know I told Emily I didn't like him. It's just that I still didn't believe that someone like him could have a crush on someone like me. Curious, I spent the whole evening stalking Eden's social media account. Not gonna lie, he was indeed really cute. There were loads of pics of him watching basketball matches with his little bro, pulling goofy faces with his friends, and spending time with his family at the beach. So there were also a few pics of him with his ex, and I noticed that she'd commented on some of his recent stuff. I really wished I was brave enough to start a conversation with him, or to even ask him if he still kept in touch with his ex-girlfriend. But that would be weird, wouldn't it? But then, guess what? To my utter disbelief, the next morning, my homeroom teacher walked in, and following her was... Sarah? Oh no, I should have listened to Emily on this one. So did this mean Eden would get back with her? All day long, Sarah clung onto Eden. So it wasn't long before the rumors started buzzing around school that the dream couple was back together. Not only was this bad enough to deal with, but I also had to put up with Emily's "I told you so" looks. Whatever. The two of them dating had nothing to do with me, right? They could do what they wanted, and I was just going to carry on with my life. But, geez, this Sarah girl needed to stop spamming everyone's timeline with all these old photos when she and Eden were still in love. Not to mention the cheesy, cringy captions. Okay, I guess my heart ached a little. But anyway, I knew I shouldn't care about them. Only, it soon became pretty obvious that Sarah was bothered by me. Every time she passed me in the corridor, she glanced at me and sneered. Huh? Why the attitude? I barely knew the girl. Then one time, I was heading over to the cafeteria when someone shoved me from behind, causing me to fall face first on the ground. Confused, I quickly fumbled for my glasses. Huh? What was that sound? Then suddenly, I heard Emily scream out, "Lisa, you just stepped on your glasses!" Oh no. Now how was I supposed to live without my glasses? Emily had to guide me back to class, and that day, I could only listen to the lectures because I couldn't see well enough to take notes. By the end of the day, I was fed up and just wanted to go home. I was about to ask Emily to help me walk home, so I didn't end up getting flattened by a bus or something. But before I could ask her, she packed up at lightning speed, said bye, then hurried out of there. Haze, how thoughtful was my dear bestie? Great. Guess I would just have to navigate my way home alone somehow. It took me ages just to get from the classroom to the school gate. Then I almost bumped into someone. But fortunately, there was a hand that pulled me back. "You okay?" came a familiar voice. "Eden? Is that you?" I asked. "Yeah, I'm here, and I'm not having your death on my conscience. So I'm walking you home." He took my hand. Eek! My heart somersaulted. Then he led me to the nearby glasses store so I could buy a new pair. After that, he still insisted on walking me home, though. And on the way, we talked loads, mainly about our families and our love of indie movies. Still, I couldn't help but have Sarah at the back of my mind. I just wanted to ask him about their relationship, but now wasn't the right time. Right? A few days later, during a math test, I felt something hit my back, then fall to the ground. So I picked it up, but before I could see what it was, the teacher quickly walked over, grabbed it, and opened it. Turns out, it was some of the answers to the test. Oh no! I tried explaining myself, but he told me I would get detention and was not allowed to take the test anymore. What? I couldn't get an F on my math test. It would ruin both my transcript and my college application record. I cried out to him that this wasn't fair, when suddenly, Eden stood up and said, "Sir, it was my sheet, not Lisa's." So both of us ended up being banned from taking the test. And the teacher believed that because I picked the note up, I was still just as guilty. I didn't think this day could get any worse. Oh, how wrong I was. During recess, I was rearranging my books in my locker when Sarah approached me. "Hey, how dare you let Eden take the blame for your actions? As class president, you should be totally ashamed of yourself. What are you talking about? Your innocent routine may fool Eden, but you aren't fooling me. You wait and see, as I still have bigger plans coming for you. Bigger? What other plans did you have? Huh? Am I missing something? Stop ruining things between Eden and me, else I won't let it slide next time. What was that about? Why was Sarah blaming me? Jeez, this whole situation was crazy. After school, Eden and I had to stay behind for an extra hour for detention. Luckily, our homeroom teacher knew that neither of us would cheat, as we were both exemplary students. So that punishment was just a warning. Then, on our way out of the classroom, I asked him, I know that paper wasn't yours, so why did you help me? Well, I knew it wasn't yours either. I saw Sarah throw it at you. Sarah? Yeah, she was behind breaking your glasses too. She pushed me? But why? It was me. I'm sorry. She did that because she knows I like you. What? Did I mishear him? Eden just said that he likes me? Lisa, I like you. I have for a long time. Do you want to go out with me sometime? There was an awkward pause as I soaked up his words. He really likes me. Oh, wow. This was bonkers. I gave this huge smile. Then I nodded at him and spluttered out, Yeah, I'd like that. So, after that, we started dating. But this didn't go too well with Sarah. One afternoon, I was walking across the schoolyard when Sarah appeared and shot me this dirty look, which I ignored. Suddenly, she pushed my shoulder, sneered, and then left. I quickly straightened myself up, then shouted after her, Hey, Sarah! I never got a chance to thank you! Sarah immediately turned around and gave me a puzzled look. You know, for getting Eden and me together. Sincerely, thank you, our matchmaker! Then I smiled and left. I'm pretty sure that she was still standing there at me with fiery eyes. But hey, she pranked me first, right? Oh well, karma. Anyway, I just want to let you all know that if you like someone, then don't put yourself down. Instead, be confident and brave enough to tell them how you feel. Because not everyone is lucky enough to have an expert matchmaker like Sarah around to help. Hey! Been trying to find you at school today. I have big news, and it's bad. Real bad! Don't leave me hanging. Mom says we're defo moving to California by the end of the month. What? No way! That's a 2-day drive from here. Yeah, I know. But Mom's marrying David. The same David that's scared of spiders, cockroaches, and everything? Yeah, that guy. He's been trying to get her attention for ages, sending her flowers, playing the guitar on her porch. Then last week, he even climbed up the oak tree so he could hand her flowers through the bedroom window. Okay, that's kind of creepy. Ew. Tell me about it. But you know, the worst part is, I have to transfer to another school. No. Lisa couldn't move away. Who would I sit with at lunch? Who would I watch corny movies with? Ugh, we've been besties for years. We couldn't just be separated like this. No one would ever understand me like she did. We were like two halves of a whole. Her dad had passed away, so she only had her mom, while I only had my dad. And yep, that's my amazing dad. It's been just me and him for the past 10 years. I still remember that afternoon when my mom took her suitcase and left with another man. After that, me and Dad moved back here, to our hometown, New Hampshire. It's only when I got a little older that I found out Mom and her lover scammed Dad out of everything. So Dad's been working his butt off to open his own repair garage to provide for us both ever since. It isn't fair. My dad's a hero, and he deserves to be with a better woman. Hold on. Yes, he deserves a better one. And who wouldn't be better than Lisa's mom? I needed to tell Lisa about my plan right now, so I immediately ran to my room and phoned her. Girl, I have the most genius plan ever to keep you and your mom here with me. Please, I'm all ears. Anything. I really don't want to move to Cali. Okay, listen. Let's set your mom up with my dad. He's a good guy, and that means we'll be sisters. We both squealed excitedly. Lisa always wanted to have a dad. A nice one, not that David creep. Ugh! I could see the envy in her eyes when I spoke about the funny pranks I played on my dad. Well, in contrast, my heart ached whenever she told me about the girly pamper days she had with her mom. Okay, first, research is important. We spent all night looking up their horoscopes, name astrology calculator, and even physiognomy. Whoa, they're a 98% match! But hey, nothing is perfect, right? Me and Lisa would make up for the missing 2%. The next day, we were both zombies due to the lack of sleep. But at least a proper plan had been set. I told Lisa to tell her mom, Mary, to come around on Saturday for my birthday. Yeah, it's not actually my birthday, but she's a presenter for a big news channel, so she's super busy. We needed to make up some special occasion so she couldn't say no. Then I told my dad to prepare his signature dish to welcome my special guests. There's no way Mary could resist. That day, I was helping Dad with the ingredients when I heard the doorbell. I opened the door to see Lisa standing there with a pink frosted birthday cake. And by her side was her mom. Happy birthday, sweetie. This one's for you. Oh, something smells good. And so familiar. She continued. Hello? Mary? Jack? Why are you here? For Erin's birthday. And you? I'm her father. And FYI, today isn't her birthday. Yeah, jerk. Mary said under her breath while rolling her eyes. Excuse me? You dumped me for no reason. So what's that attitude? Oh, really? For no reason? My eyes darted from Dad to Mary. Huh? Why were they yelling at each other? This was very confusing, but I could guess that they used to date? OMG, what a small world! Okay, whatever, 'cause it's lunchtime now. And wow, Dad's legendary meatloaf smelled amazeballs. We sat down, and Mary glared at Dad as she took a bite of food. Then she blurted out, Oh wow, I guess some things never change, huh? Your food is still super salty. Oh really? But as I recall, someone still asked for seconds. Unbelievable! Excuse me, but do you know each other? Lisa innocently interrupted. There was an awkward silence. Then Dad said, Yeah, we do. But this is the first time I've seen Mary since we broke up, right after I visited her studio for the first time. Mary looked flustered as she replied, Lisa, you shouldn't have tricked me into coming here. Finish your food, then we're leaving. On hearing this, Dad ordered Lisa and me up to my room so he could talk to Mary in private. Only we hid behind the couch and listened in. Turns out, on that day, Mary took my dad to the studio to watch her first filming as a news presenter. After that, she'd passed by the waiting room and overheard Dad talking to someone. I clearly heard that person ask you how I looked, and you said I was still the same old Mary. Do you have any idea that I spent 2 hours in makeup and was excited to show you? Dad tried to chime in, but Mary wouldn't give him a sec. Worse still, later you even told them you were over the moon I wouldn't be your girlfriend for much longer. Thus, to intercept that, I had to break up with you first. Oh my. So my dad was a playboy or something? Lisa and I swapped confused looks, then continued watching the show. My dad was dumbfounded, and then he said in a helpless voice, Oh, Mary, things were not like that. I said that you look the same because you're always as beautiful as the day I met you. And about the other thing. Yeah?
I prepared a ring to propose to you, so you'd no longer be my girlfriend, but my wife."
What? So they broke up because of an absurd misunderstanding and lost contact since then. Jeez, I thought adults were meant to know what they were doing. It sure didn't seem like it at times. Mary gave Dad an awkward smile, and they said that they could be friends. Then she told him about David and how she was marrying him on the 22nd of December. No! We couldn't let this happen. There had to be another way of getting them together. But that road was full of thorns and spikes, especially when Dad dropped a bombshell. His new girlfriend, Lucy. A few days later, when I was working on my art project, Dad walked into the room with her. Excuse me? She was wearing this super tight bodycon dress and had at least 7 layers of makeup on. Ugh. Then she even dared to pick up the photo of me with Mom and smirked. "Oh, how nice." I rushed over to her, snatched it out of her hands, and shouted, "Keep off my things! I don't like you!" She immediately glared at me. But then seeing Dad coming down from upstairs, she suddenly smiled and hugged me while whispering in my ear, "You don't, but you have to." Jeez, what a poisonous snake! But worse, when she left, Dad had this dumb grin on his face, and then he actually asked if I wanted her to be my new mom. Oh no, she'd hypnotized him for sure. In a rush, I called Lisa to tell her about it. She came up with the idea of asking her mom to join us at the Christmas market this week. Bummer. She refused. Apparently she had too much wedding planning to do. Ugh. And if you're thinking it couldn't get worse, then Dad invited Lucy along. So Lisa asked her mom to let her stay with me for a few days, so we could teach this Lucy some lessons. May the pranking commence. That morning, Lucy showed up in this fancy light blue dress and ordered Dad to get her a chocolate-covered waffle. What a shame. I accidentally knocked it all over her outfit. Oops! Then a fake fly somehow fell into her hot chocolate. Her eyes almost bulged out of her head when she drank that. But she just gave us a cunning smirk, then grabbed Dad's arm and cuddled close to him. Unbelievable! But you know, diamond cuts diamond. When Dad went to the restroom, with sparkling eyes, I said, "Lucy, I really admire a nice person like you. My dad's only a mechanic with $1,500 a month, but you still love him." So this isn't true. He ran his own business. But anyway. No way! He looks rich, though. Oh, he probably was just desperate to catch your attention. He bragged a little bit. And you're proud of that? That's not funny, sweetie. I am out of your dad's league. There's no way I'm putting up with a brat like you for such a poor man. Right at that moment, my dad returned and, no surprises, they broke up. Now she was out of the picture, Dad was free to win Mary over, right? We 3 went home, and I noticed that Dad was acting weird. He kept on pacing by the door. Then, when Mary arrived to pick Lisa up, he leapt to open it and blurted out to her,
"Have you thought any more about us?"
She didn't say anything, but I noticed them exchanging these sorry looks. Their love for each other was so obviously real, as they knew each other since they had nothing. Yet they weren't doing anything about it. It was already December 20th, meaning there were only 2 days left till the wedding day. I couldn't let our plan fail like this. I immediately grabbed my phone to call Lisa, but the ringing was next to me. She'd left her phone at my house. Dang! Then the next morning, I walked by her house to go to school as usual, but no one was home, and she wasn't at school either. Oh my, had they moved to David's already? I told Dad this right away when I got home. He thought for a second and asked me to get in the car ASAP to go to California. So our bumper 2-day road trip began. When we reached the wedding venue, it was empty. Oh no, we were too late. Dad looked devastated, so I put my arm around him and started to lead him out of there. But then the receptionist appeared and said,
"Oh, Didn't they let you know either? The wedding's been cancelled.
Dad's face lit up, and we both raced over to the car and started the long drive back. Oh, it felt like ages in the car, and now it was just 2 hours until Christmas Eve. The roads were full of beautiful Christmas decorations. I looked through the windows and saw people gathering with their families, while Dad and I were driving nonstop. How sad. We drove straight to Lisa and Mary's, but they were out, so we sat in the freezing cold on their doorstep and waited. Dad dozed off, his head resting on my shoulder. Bless. Then I saw them walking towards us. Oh man, you should have seen their shocked faces. I shook Dad awake, and he looked over at Mary. She dropped her bags and looked at us astonished. Then Lisa told us the whole story. Turns out, on the way to California, they met 2 amateur robbers who forced them to get out of the car. Mary immediately pounded them with her handbag, while David ran off and hid behind a tree with Lisa. When the robbers scampered off, Mary told David everything from the bottom of her heart. That although David was wealthy, that was not what she wanted. Instead, she just needed a man who could support and protect her. She'd been flattered by his gestures of love, touched by his persistence, and thought that love could be cultivated. But things weren't as simple as that. So they broke up, and the wedding was canceled. Dad and I were stunned. Then, with eyes prickled with tears, my dad said,
Mary, I'm sorry for letting you go. But it's not too late, is it?
Right after, he pulled the old ring from that day out of his pocket and got down on one knee and said,
Mary, will you marry me?
She cried out, Yes! Both Lisa and I were bursting with happiness. So now we both have a mom and a dad, and we're pretty much sisters. Yay! This is the warmest Christmas ever.
My phone beeped with a new message. Emma, I've got something to do nearby, so let's meet there. See ya.
It was from Tony, my childhood friend from the orphanage back in Missouri. Yep, that's right. I ended up in an orphanage after my mom passed away when I was only 4 years old. But things were even worse for Tony and him. They'd been left outside the orphanage door without anyone even knowing who their parents were. And now here I am, on my way to visit his grave, as today's his death anniversary. Time flies. I can hardly believe it's been 10 years already. I picked up some flowers, then drove to the cemetery. Tony was already there waiting for me. I smiled and waved, but my heart felt heavy. Back when we were 14, we'd been joined at the hip, Tony, Thomas, and me. I had a secret crush on Thomas, but I never got the chance to tell him. It had all happened so fast on that day. We were just kids, young and dumb. We'd snuck out to go play by the riverbank. One minute we were splashing each other in the river. The next moment, Thomas was being carried away in the current. I tried to save him, but Tony pulled me back to shore. Even thinking about it now, I still couldn't help but burst into tears.
Don't cry, Em. I'll always be here for you.
And I knew he would be. Deep down, I knew Tony always had feelings for me. But I didn't feel the same way. After that, Tony drove me home. Seeing my exhausted look, he said before I went inside,
Get a good night's sleep, Em. Remember, we've got that interview tomorrow.
Gosh, I almost forgot. Tony probably thought I was the worst employee ever. And yes, you can guess it. Tony is my boss. After years in the orphanage, he was adopted by a super smart family that had inspired him to strive to become someone important, and he'd eventually built a food startup. Anyway, the following morning, despite still feeling worn out, I had no choice but to put on a brave face to go to work, as I had a marketing team to lead. But as I walked into the lobby, a guy bumped into me. He helped me up and frantically apologized, explaining he was in a rush. I looked up and was about to nag him, but wait, why does he look so familiar? In fact, he looked exactly like... It's you! You... I stammered, but I couldn't even finish my sentences because he'd rushed into the lift and the doors had closed. I must have been seeing things. Honestly, throughout the whole interview, I could barely concentrate. Could there be two people looking that similar on this earth? I was lost in thought when the next applicant came in, and it was him! Both Tony and I stared in shock. He was the spitting image of Thomas. But he couldn't be. I mean, Thomas had died years ago. We both were too stunned to say anything until his voice broke the silence.
Hi, I'm Dustin, and I'm here to interview for the marketing position.
I looked at Tony, and he looked just as confused as I did. But, yeah, it wasn't Thomas. This guy was from Illinois and had never even been to Missouri. Okay, so here's Thomas's doppelganger. Fair enough. The interview went well, and even though he was a bit arrogant, he knew what he was doing, so we hired him. When I left the room, surprisingly, Dustin was still waiting for me outside. He offered to treat me to lunch as an apology for earlier. I agreed, as I was desperate to ask him more questions. During lunch, I kept mentioning the orphanage, some of Thomas's hobbies and things he hated, but Dustin didn't even bat an eyelid. I was disappointed, because I really hoped Dustin would actually be Thomas. That night, I barely slept. I couldn't stop thinking about Dustin. It's ridiculous, but I still had a strong feeling that he really was my childhood sweetheart. Suddenly, I got a message from Tony.
Saw you hanging out with Dustin. Wake up, Em. He's not Thomas.
Ugh, I didn't need to hear that. The next day, I couldn't take my eyes off of Dustin. At lunch, I watched as he put honey on his watermelon, and I almost freaked out. That was exactly what Thomas used to do. Oh my, I blurted out. I then told Tony what I just saw as soon as he sat down, but he just laughed and said,
Honestly, Em, tons of people do that. Do you really think that our Thomas could be that arrogant?
Seeing that I was still unfazed, he continued.
But if you still want to check, just give him a peach. Things can change, but allergies don't, right?
OMG, Tony was a genius. He probably was just kidding, but I was super serious. So the next day, I bought Dustin a peach pie to welcome him to the team. But to my surprise, he ate it up with pleasure and seemed totally fine. Okay, clearly I needed to let this go. He wasn't Thomas. End of. But if only things were that simple. And even though I knew Dustin wasn't Thomas, I still felt attracted to him. He was smart and sweet, and so much fun to be around. Eventually, we started hanging out and became very close. We didn't actually make anything official, but we were low-key dating already. However, it was impossible to hide things from Tony. One time, our company went on a team bonding weekend, and we'd arranged a tennis competition. We had to pair up, so obviously I would go with Dustin, but as we're about to go sign up, then Tony came to ask me to be his partner too. My God, it was so awkward. Then Tony said in a very sulky tone,
Okay, how about we have a little competition? The winner gets to pair up with Emma.
And so they had a swimming race. That's so embarrassing. I knew Dustin couldn't swim, so I started to panic, but he got in the pool anyway. Obviously, Tony won, but who cares? He was acting like a child. I rushed over to help Dustin, who was left coughing and choking on the water, and at that moment, I realized that I was falling for him so much. But since then, there were rumors in the company that Dustin was only flirting with me to get promoted. One morning, we were walking through the lobby together when two girls started whispering about us. So Dustin took my hand and went straight to the girls saying,
I love Emma. What's wrong with that? Tell me. Go on.
At that exact moment, Tony appeared and asked if he could have a word with Dustin in his office. I was so nervous. Now everyone knew we were in some weird triangle, and I didn't like it one bit. Then one of my colleagues overheard Tony telling Dustin that if he didn't leave me alone, he'd be fired. I couldn't believe it. I went to find Tony right away, and before I could even confront him, he said,
Yes, it's true. I asked those girls to start the rumors, and I also asked that jerk to give up on you. It was me. I did it all. I just don't get it, Em. Why have I ever been good enough for you?
Tony, wait.
It's been 10 years. Why couldn't you give me a chance? Why can't you let Thomas go? Some guy who looks like him walks up and you totally forget about me? He's a loser compared to Thomas.
Don't you dare call him a loser, I said.
See? In the end, you still care about him only, not me.
Tony shouted, then stormed off. I hated to be in this situation. On the one hand, I truly liked Dustin, but Tony was not only my lifesaver, but also my best friend, who'd stuck by my side through all the highs and lows. What a dilemma. In the end, I decided to have a little space from Dustin, just until things cooled down. Maybe then the rumors would stop and people would quit being so negative about him. But that wasn't to be so. You see, our new product that hadn't even been released yet suddenly appeared on the website of our direct competitor. Someone must have leaked the confidential file. But who? An investigation was opened and all of our computers were checked. You won't believe it, but the IT team had been able to recover a deleted email that had been sent to our rivals from Dustin's outbox. Dustin denied it, and he demanded to check the CCTV. That's how we caught Mike, one of our senior employees, at Dustin's computer sneakily doing something. And to think, he'd put the blame on Dustin. After the truth came out, I went over to Dustin, but he seemed mad as he said,
You think I'm a jerk too, don't you? That's why you've been giving me the cold shoulder.
I told him I never believed he'd done it. Then I took his hand. I'm so sorry. It's just that I've been through some stuff. Then we hugged. Oh my, I'd missed him so much. But the drama didn't end there. The info leaked had caused our company huge losses. We had thousands of meetings, and the stress was unreal. Feeling so deflated, I went up to the rooftop to get some air. Suddenly, I heard Dustin's voice somewhere. He was on the phone with someone talking about some plan to steal our company's products. No way! Without even thinking, I charged over and snatched his phone away to see that he was talking to Mike? Oh my God! Had they been accomplices from the beginning? I was so angry, but actually more disappointed. So I asked him to resign and stay away from my sight. I know I should have exposed him to the whole company instead of letting him go that easy, but I guess my heart couldn't bear to do that. I felt so bad, especially towards Tony, the best friend who's always by my side, while I was busy chasing after a jerk. I lost contact with Dustin after that, and I barely had time to think about it because our company was on the brink of bankruptcy. But one day, I got a call from him, followed by a message saying,
Please don't ignore me. I've got something important to tell you.
So we met up the next day at a coffee shop, and as soon as I saw him, I said, Look, Dustin, I've had enough of your lies. Please just get to the point. Then he replied,
Emma, I admit that I only came to work for your company to steal your ideas, but seeing you and Tony after all these years, and falling for you all over again, well, that wasn't part of my plan.
I was confused. After all these years? What are you talking about? Then he showed me his wrist, and he was wearing a friendship bracelet.
Remember this? You gave it to me on my birthday 10 years ago.
OMG. What was going on? I couldn't believe my eyes. I'd given this to Thomas. But then why? But the peach, I continued. He just laughed and said,
I overheard you guys' plan, so I made sure to take allergy meds just before.
Then he went on to explain that he was Thomas, and that he'd been lucky enough to be saved that day on the river. There was a family who were out in the river searching for their drowned son, but instead of finding him, they found Thomas, and so they kindly adopted him and changed his name to their son's, Dustin. This was insane. Here was Thomas right in front of me, after all these years. And guess what? His adoptive father is the director of our rival company, and so he'd asked Dustin, or should I say Thomas, to come and infiltrate our company. Thomas kept apologizing for it, saying how much it had tormented him and that he just missed me and had to tell me the truth. My head was spinning. This was all too much. I needed a moment to think it all through, but in the end, we decided that he could help our company by uploading a post to expose the truth. Obviously, as soon as Tony heard about it all, he was furious. He was mostly mad at me because I'd covered for Thomas. He'd even stopped talking to me for a while. But putting that aside, after Thomas's post, things got better for our company. We were able to launch new products as scheduled, and he even contributed some capital to help with our new project. Now our companies are still rivals, but at least it's now a fair competition. As for Tony and I, we eventually made up. He came to find me one day after work and said,
I'm so sorry for how childish I've been. I was just jealous of you and Thomas. I was too selfish to consider your feelings. But you and Thomas, I want you guys to be together. You two are made for each other.
I couldn't stop crying as he said that. It meant so much to me. And guess what? It has now been a whole year since Thomas came back into our lives, and the three of us are back to being the best of friends. Oh, and I should probably add that Thomas and I are engaged. We're so happy, and we're even opening an orphanage together for homeless kids like us. I'm going through many phases, but I finally found peace in life. I guess it all worked out after all. This? Or this one? Ugh, this is such an impossible decision. It's my senior year, so I wanted this last prom to be the most memorable. I wonder which guy will ask me to prom first. Adam's cute, but he's so hot and cold with me. Then there's Devin, the school's hottest swimmer. Oh, and I also heard rumors that Ethan, the most popular jock in school, was planning to ask me to prom at the next baseball game. My buzzing phone broke me from my thoughts. It was a message from my friend Donna saying, "Phoebe, have you seen the news? Lockdown starts tomorrow!" Oh my god, this couldn't be legit. Could it? What about prom? Then I received another message from the prom committee.
Due to the current rule changes, unfortunately, prom's been cancelled.
No! Unbelievable! My prom! It was another message. Geez, I was getting sick of them. I hoped it would be Donna telling me this was all a joke and prom wasn't cancelled, but no. I glanced at it and saw a text message from Jacob, a classmate I never spoke to. That's weird. Curious, I opened the message. Hey, Jacob. So, what do you want to ask me?
Hi, and, can you help me model for a moment? I'm applying for the Art Institute in Chicago, and the application deadline is tomorrow. But I need to submit a drawing.
I'll be posing for you to draw? But I've never modeled before. This sounds super important. Shouldn't you ask a professional?
Well, don't worry. I already have all the ideas, and I think you are the most suitable person to model for me, as you're a natural beauty, and that will show in my work. Especially your beautiful eyes.
Okay then, if you say so. Let's do it. Jacob then instructed me how to pose. After that, he took out a piece of paper and started sketching carefully. Meanwhile, I was sitting there trying my best to help my friend by not moving. Now that I had time to really look at him, I think Jacob is really handsome. Especially when he's so focused on drawing like this. Why has it taken me 3 years of high school to realize this? Strange. How can such a good-looking guy be pretty much invisible in my class? Maybe it's because he's a little on the shy side?
Done! What do you think?
Wow! You're so talented! I like it. I like it a lot.
Really? When can we meet again? I'll give you this drawing.
Oh, I thought you were gonna send it with your college application.
Give me a sec.
Just like that, he disappeared from the screen without even answering my question. After a while, Jacob returned with a picture frame in his hand. Then he put the picture he'd just drawn of me in it and hung it up in his room.
In the meantime, I'll hang it here, so it's safe and, well, I get to, see you every day.
Why did he say it like that? He's totally making me blush by now. What about your college application?
Actually, I submitted them already.
So, you tricked me?
I'm sorry, it's not like that. Actually, I wanted to ask you something else, but because I'm really nervous, I ended up blurting out that I wanted you to model for me instead.
So what exactly do you want to ask me? If you don't talk, I'll hang up.
Wait! I know it's canceled and all, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life not knowing your answer. So, if I asked you to go to prom with me, would you say yes?
I don't know. Only when I receive an official invitation will I consider it. I was giggling to myself at this point. Our class's shyest guy was being so genuine. But then he took a deep breath and said boldly,
Phoebe, will you come to prom with me?
Aw, I have to admit, I was really touched by Jacob's invitation. So I replied, yes!
Dinner's ready, hun.
Oh, that's my mom calling. I gotta go.
Yeah, you go eat. Thank you. I've received the answer I needed anyway.
I gave him my cutest smile and then ended the video call. Swoon? My heart was fluttering. After that moment, I couldn't stop imagining how great it'd be. Only if we weren't stuck in this stupid lockdown, Jacob would have escorted me to prom and, oh my, imagine how perfect we would look together. Such a pity. Now all I could do was just think about him all day. A few days passed, only Jacob hadn't contacted me. Not once. This made me antsy. I was constantly checking my phone. Then there were times I was so close to texting him first. But for what reason, though? I had nothing to tell him. Aha! Got it!
Phoebe, what happened?
Jacob, I've screwed up.
Calm down and tell me what's happened.
I almost burned the house down.
Huh? What? What did you do?
I forgot to turn off the stove while frying the eggs. You see? Does it look like crime scene evidence?
What have you done to the poor pan?
That worked a treat, as after that, we video chatted almost every day and talked about all kinds of things, from our dreams for the future to our favorite puddings. On the one rare day we didn't chat, I felt myself feeling restless. Is it possible that I was lovesick? One time, while I was standing in the garden talking to Jacob, Nancy, my gossipy sister, caught me. Expectedly, during dinner that night, Nancy told my mother that I had a boyfriend. Ugh, what a snitch. Why did my mother give birth to me and her as well? Fine. And FYI, my mom is one of those super strict types of parents.
Phoebe, what did I tell you? Before graduation, you can't date.
Mom put her fork down and gave me a serious look. But we're just friends.
No buts. From now on, focus on studying and stop contacting him. Understand?
Annoyed, I stormed off to my room. That night, I couldn't sleep a wink. I longed to hear Jacob's voice so badly. I missed him. Then, at midnight, I somehow ended up picking up my phone and texting him. I know it's late, but are you awake? I'm so stupid. Of course he wasn't going to be awake at this. Oh, it's Jacob.
I'm awake. You want to talk?
So he called me, and we talked in whispers so no one overheard me. I told Jacob about the argument with my mom. He advised me not to be angry with her because she just cared about me. Then he said,
On your birthday this year, I'll come over and prove to your parents that you've chosen the right person.
Choose the right person? What do you mean?
I mean, will you be my girlfriend?
I was still feeling somewhat confused when he suddenly started singing.
But darling, just kiss me slow. Your heart is all I own, and in your eyes you're holding mine.
I love that Ed Sheeran song. My heart melted with each word Jacob sang, and I found myself softly saying, I do. Oh my God, he's officially my boyfriend now. This was so exciting. I just wish I was back at school to show him off. We secretly chatted every day, and he was the ray of light in my boring days during the lockdown. But then one day, he didn't reply. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he was busy drawing or something. But then, when the day was coming to an end, and I still hadn't received a reply from him, I started to freak out. Was he sick? Only at past midnight, he finally messaged me.
I'm sorry. I feel kinda down today, so I couldn't talk to you.
Oh no, why was he so sad? Hearing this, I couldn't be patient anymore. So I called him right away, over and over, but the only response was a long beep, then followed by a text a little later.
I don't want you to see me in this state. I'm sorry.
What was wrong? He was always such an optimistic guy. Something really terrible must have happened to make him feel like that. Feeling anxious, I continued to call him, until eventually he gave in and answered. Then he told me what was wrong. Lockdown was the final straw for his wearing parents, and now they were getting a divorce. I felt so sorry for him. Oh, how I wished I could have run to him right away. He actually only lived a few blocks away from me, so we planned to sneak out to see each other in the park. From a distance, of course. The plan was that I would open the door on the sly to run outside, while Mum was in the kitchen.
Phoebe, what are you doing?
I...
Come inside and set the table. The food's getting cold.
My plan failed completely. I'm sorry, I couldn't get out. My mom caught me. A few minutes later, Jacob's reply showed up. Turned out he'd already snuck out and had been waiting for me at the park. I felt so guilty, so I called him at once. He tried to put on a smile, but I knew he was really bummed out, so I blew him a kiss to cheer him up. This really brightened him up. Then he said that as soon as lockdown was over, he was giving me a real kiss. Just like that, time went on, and we learned how to make the most of this relationship in the pandemic era. Everything was good until one day he told me some news that struck me like a lightning bolt. He'd received an offer letter from the art college in Chicago. He'd got in! Of course, Jacob was excited, and I was really happy for him. But Chicago was a whole different state, so I'd never get to see him. Jacob said he was still wondering if he should go or not, as he didn't want to leave me. Me neither, but how could I tell him not to go? Jacob, please go chase your dream. Don't give it up over a girl whose hand you've never held.
If I go, then what about us?
Just leave it. Whatever will be, will be. After that day, there were no more messages or calls from Jacob. Perhaps he was busy arranging things for college. I missed him so much, but I had to let him live his life. Then, on the same day Jacob left, I received a package. I took it up to my room and opened it. Inside was the painting which he had asked me to model for. It's really beautiful. The painting! Now how am I supposed to forget you when I have to look at this every day, Jacob? The city eventually came out of lockdown, and things were pretty much back to some kind of normal. It was just that I couldn't stop thinking about Jacob and how different things would be if he was still here. We hadn't spoken since that time we broke up. I guess it was easier this way, but it didn't stop it from sucking. And to make it even worse, today's my birthday, and all I could think about was him. I was sitting there trying to fake delight as my family brought me out a cake and sang me happy birthday. Hang on, who's that? Standing behind my parents? Oh my, it can't be. It's Jacob!
Oh, yes. I found this one loitering outside. He seems keen to see you, and, well, it is your birthday, so I suppose I'll let the no boys rule slide for today."
Mom smiled. I couldn't help it. I darted out of the chair and leapt into Jacob's arms. I asked him why he was here, and grinning, he replied,
"I have a promise to keep."
Then I introduced him to everyone, and being the perfect guy he was, he's really mature and friendly toward my family, and they love him. But soon the day ended, and he went to leave, so with reluctance, I walked him out to say goodbye. Jacob then held my hand and said,
"Look, Phoebe, when I was away, I realized how much I like you, and if you have the same feelings, could we give this long-distance relationship a try?"
Without giving me time to answer, he continued,
"I'll try my best to contact and come back here often. I will never leave you feeling lonely. I promise."
His words were really touching, but, Jacob, I'm sorry. I don't think we can do long distance.
"Why not?"
"'Cause I've applied to College Columbus in Chicago, and I got in. We're gonna be neighbors!" I was laying around and watching Netflix when suddenly the doorbell rang. Who could that be? I opened the door and, oh my God, it was her! Ugh! Sorry, but whenever I see my cousin Zoe, I instantly feel tense. I just can't stand her, and I think the feeling is mutual. "Hey, cuz! How's it going?" What are you doing here? Is that how you greet your cousin? Then she shoved past me and walked into my house, followed by her driver, who was carrying 4 huge suitcases. Huh? Was she gonna... Yup, she was planning to stay here. Why, though? Trust me, I don't like it either. I wanted to stay in the penthouse of a 5-star hotel, but my parents were insistent that I stay with you. How long are you gonna be here? And what about school? Oh, I'll be homeschooling for a while. Well, at least for 2 months. We're renovating the entire mansion, so it could take longer. I mean, you know how enormous my house is. And we're also hiring this world-class interior designer all the way from France. Ugh, classic Zoe. She never misses an opportunity to brag. And now I'm stuck with her for months. Ugh, why did my parents agree that she could stay? Well, easy for them to say, as they were jet-setting across the world, so they didn't have to put up with her. The next day, some strange noise woke me up. Ugh, it's only 6 a.m., and the bickering seemed to come from the corridor. My mattress is as stiff as a brick, and how can you possibly expect me to stay in such a tiny room? I've seen bigger cupboards. Seriously, why are you even renting this place? Do you even know what time it is? And what are you talking about? This is my house. It is? Oh, wow. Isn't it a bit small? This girl really wanted to test my patience or what? Her ridiculous complaints didn't stop there, as she went on to yell at the maids every 5 seconds. Where's my Gucci backpack? This dress needed to be steamed, not ironed. Why are there crusts on my bread? Is this even gluten-free? Ew! Then she turned to me. Leah, I can't understand why you haven't fired them already. Unbelievable! I'm going to the country club for breakfast. Au revoir! Then she left. Oh well, at least I could enjoy my breakfast in peace. I was actually looking forward to school now. Man, I never thought I'd say that, but at least it was a Zoe-free zone. But school, too, had to end at some point, and I had to go home and face Zoe again. She was sitting on the couch, her arms folded, then she huffed out. Today was so boring. Tomorrow, I'm coming to school with you. What? I blurted out in panic. No way. My school has strict rules about not allowing strangers in. Besides, it's a public school. You'll hate it. But she didn't listen and insisted that I call my dad and get him to ask the school. So I fake called my dad and told Zoe that he said it was impossible. She immediately phoned her father. Then 30 minutes later, she told me it was done. Turns out, he called the principal and just made a generous donation to the school. And voila, Zoe got accepted. Oh well, that's one of the benefits of having a rich and powerful dad. My God, I couldn't believe it. Now there was no way to avoid Zoe. We would be seeing each other all day long. But maybe when she saw how popular I was, she'd get jealous and leave. But as soon as we entered the hallway, all eyes were on Zoe. They looked at her like a Hollywood star or something. Ugh, those traitors! Zoe spent all day bragging to her new fans. She sure liked the attention because what she did next was so crazy, I thought I was gonna faint. She phoned up her father and told him she wanted to transfer to my school permanently. Oh no, I gotta tell Susan this awful news ASAP. Only my bestie could understand what I was going through right now. She told me not to be worried, as Zoe seemed fake and people would soon figure her out, and even reassured me that I was prettier. Aw, Susan, you're the best. Then I suddenly got a text from Zoe. Emergency! Take me to the salon after school. I just chipped a nail. What? So now I'm her chauffeur? Suddenly, Susan piped in. I'll take her if you want. OMG, this girl was a lifesaver. So it was settled. Susan drove Zoe to the beauty salon after school, while I could relax at home and enjoy my Zoe free time. A few hours later, Zoe returned with this frosty look on her face. What was up with her? So, how was the salon? Did you have fun with Susan? But she blanked me. Whatever, I didn't care. The next morning, I was using my hair curler. What's wrong with it? I couldn't open the clamp. Oh my God, I started to smell something burning. My hair! Help! I grabbed some scissors and snipped it off. My God, no way could I go to school like this. So I called my teacher and faked that I was ill, then made an emergency appointment with my hair salon. While I was walking back to my room to get dressed, I glanced in Zoe's room, and there it was. The weapon that brutally killed my hair. A big bottle of glue was lying on her table. Ugh! Don't think I will let you get away with this. Over breakfast, I tried to act normal by wearing a hoodie and telling Zoe I was skipping school today as I had a cold. Then she left, and right on cue, I heard a deafening scream. Her hand was stuck to the car door. I'd taken her glue and poured it all over the car door handle. Karma feels so good. The best part was that people were walking by, so she pretended she was posing next to it. Hilarious! Thank God, after spending half a day in the salon, my hair was finally saved. I arrived home thinking I could relax from all that Zoe stress when I suddenly heard her voice outside. School was already over? Great! But wait, was she speaking to someone? I peeked out of the window, and I couldn't believe my eyes! It was Kyle! My Kyle! Then he leaned in and kissed her on the cheek! So, okay, he wasn't actually mine yet. But still, how dare she? Then Susan texted me, saying, Leah, I'm so sorry. I slipped my tongue, so now Zoe knows that you like Kyle. As soon as Zoe entered the house, I blocked her way and yelled, So, you and Kyle, what on earth? Duh, it's obvious. We're a couple. How dare you? Why not? I'm the most popular girl in the school now, not you. Maybe you should ask Mommy and Daddy to transfer you to another school again. Remember what happened at our last school? Then she shoved past me. Ugh! How dare she bring that up? What happened at my last school was horrible and traumatic. It's time to show her who's the boss around here. This is my school. No way am I gonna let her get ahead of me. The next day at school, there was a huge announcement. The beauty pageant Miss Teen was being held in 2 weeks. Some kids shouted out,
"Zoe, you need to apply! The win is yours for sure!"
And Zoe was just standing there, pretending to be all shy and everything. Ugh, why would they think Zoe was suitable for Miss Teen? Someone needed to show them who's truly worthy. How about you and I compete? And let's see who actually deserves to be Miss Teen. Okay, why not? Then I walked toward her and whispered in her ear, and if you lose, you have to break up with Kyle. Deal? What? That's ridiculous! But, okay, whatever. I will win anyway. And when I do win, you have to do anything I say. Do we have a deal? Deal. There's no way I was letting her win. So I bought the most dazzling designer dresses, booked the best hairdressers and makeup artists, and prepared myself carefully for the question round. All the efforts paid off because I made it to the finale. Zoe made it too, as well as Susan. Yeah, I forgot to mention that she also wanted to try out, but no problem, as beating them would be a piece of cake. I headed backstage to get changed when I suddenly got a notification on my phone. I opened it and almost dropped my phone in shock. There, all over social media, was a photo from the worst moment of my life. It was taken at a party just after I'd been pushed into the pool. I was a drenched, frizzy-haired, smudged makeup mess. Oh no, this photo could ruin my competition chances and my life. But how? This was at my old high school. It must be Zoe. Only she knew about that. I stormed to her dressing room to see that she was yelling at a guy. Who told you to cut my dress? Who? That poor guy looked so frightened and stammered.
Leah told me to.
What? He's lying! Then I rushed over to the guy and confronted him. Scared, he blurted out that Susan had paid him to cut Zoe's dress and then blame it on me. What? Susan? My best friend? But why would she do that? Zoe and I sat down and tried to put the pieces together. When they were at the beauty salon, Susan had told her that I was bad-mouthing her behind her back. So, feeling mad, Zoe also told her how I'd been teased at my old school for being not rich enough. And then she showed that pic to her. Susan did borrow her phone after that, so that's when she must have got her hands on the photo. My God, I couldn't believe it! No wonder Zoe was kinda moody after she came home from the salon and played that glue prank on me. And Susan? How could she do this to me? I thought we were best friends. We went back to my dressing room. Oh no, my beautiful dress was ruined too. There was no way we could continue the contest. But then Zoe turned to me and said, "Give me 15 minutes. I'll get you another dress. You stay here and finish your makeup."
But what about you?
Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Then, as promised, Zoe returned with this stunning dress. I quickly changed and went on stage. I saw Susan gawping at me in confused shock. Ha! In your face, cheater! But where was Zoe? Then the moderator joined Susan and me on stage and announced that Zoe couldn't compete anymore because of personal matters. That's when I realized she'd given up her spot in the final so she could go and get me a new dress. But why would she do that? My questions would have to wait as the final round began. Susan was up first. After her, I nervously walked to the center of the stage. The audience went quiet as the judge read the question.
Everyone has experienced something that has changed their perspective of life. Can you tell us about your most memorable experience and what you learned about it?
Oh God, that was a hard one. I only prepared about current events, statistics, politics, but not this. I started to panic, and that's when I saw Zoe smiling at me. I can do it, or else Zoe would have given up the competition for nothing. So I took a deep breath. My most memorable experience is being here and taking part in this competition. I've learned that it's not always about winning, especially if that means hurting others in the process, as that's just terrible. But I know that whatever the outcome, I'm lucky, as beyond the competitiveness is family love, and it is the most important thing in the world, because family will never let you down, no matter what. So, I'd just like to thank my cousin Zoe, as I wouldn't be standing here without her. After my speech, Susan joined me on stage, and we nervously waited for the judges to announce the winner. The winner of Miss Teen 2020 is, congratulations, Leah Jones. OMG! I'd won! I couldn't believe it! After the competition, Zoe ran over to me and hugged me. Thanks for helping me. I couldn't have done it without you, and I'm so sorry for everything. Zoe began to sniffle. I'm sorry too. And then we hugged each other even tighter. Then she let go, looked at the ground, and spoke in a sad voice. So, as I promised, I will break up with Kyle. I had no idea you had a crush on him, else I would never have dated him. I swear. I smiled at her and said, I know, and it's okay. You don't need to break up with him because of me. If you really love him, then I'm happy for you. Zoe was so thrilled, then she hugged me again. Yeah, we hugged a lot on that day. After that, Zoe and I became best friends, and she loves studying at my public school so much that even though her mansion's renovations are finished, she's staying here. According to her, our old private school just had too much drama. That I could confirm. We're now trying to live more humble and stop being some problematic rich kids. As for Susan, after the competition, I confronted her. Turns out she was always jealous of me because everyone noticed me over her, and she hated how I treated her like my sidekick. That's why she came up with the plan to make Zoe and me fight against each other so that she could win Miss Teen and finally get the attention she desperately wanted. I felt a little bit bad for her. I mean, I guess I had acted unfairly toward her, but she shouldn't have tried sabotaging me. So now we wouldn't have lost a friend. Being kinder to people is definitely the way forward, and it's working, as this cute guy called Ben has asked me out. Actually, we're going on a double date with Zoe and Kyle on Friday, and I can't wait. I was minding my own business when I noticed everyone was giving me weird looks. What's wrong? I turned the corner and saw Cynthia and her followers blocking my locker. Oh, great. There she is, the girl that's into old men. Aw, is it because you don't have an actual dad, so you found yourself a sugar daddy instead? OMG, what is she talking about? Everyone was gawping at me, and her friends burst out laughing. Panicked, I turned around and ran to the restroom. Those girls are so vile. How can they have taken such a simple situation and manipulated it? I locked myself in the cubicle and didn't dare come out. A knock at the door caused me to flinch, but then I heard a familiar voice. Nicole? It's me, Olivia. Are you okay? I opened the door and saw my friend standing there, looking at me with concern. She hugged me, then led me out into the hallway where Miss Barnes was waiting for me. The rumors had reached her, and she wanted to talk to me about it. Sweetie, I want to help you, but you need to tell me everything. I had nothing to hide, so straight away, I told her everything about Sean, who's my karate teacher. We became friends since we shared the love for guitars, killer karate moves, and old-school punk rock bands. When I finished, she said, "To be honest, I find it a bit peculiar that a man his age is choosing to spend so much time with a young girl. I think it's best I have a little chat with this Sean. So please, can you give him a call and invite him over?" Sean came straight over, and as he chatted to Mrs. Barnes in her office, I nervously waited outside with Olivia. I'm just a girl without a dad. Sean is kind, and he treats me like his own daughter. What Cynthia said is cruel and untrue. Don't worry. No one believes Cynthia. They all know what she's like. A few moments later, Sean stepped out of the office. He scratched his head as he told me to say goodbye to Miss Barnes and Olivia, as he was driving me home. In the car, I asked, "What did you say to Miss Barnes that made her agree to let me go with you?"
I said that the child would be around your age.
Huh? What did he mean by that? Then he continued,
Nicole, I have a long-lost child. I've been desperate to see them and be in their life, but it didn't work out like that. Then I met you, and I found myself bonding with you as if you were my own child.
Hearing that, I asked right away, "Sean, would you like to be my dad?" He gave me this dumbfounded look, so I excitedly continued. "I mean, you're single, right? So's my mom. Why don't you two meet up and have a date? Just give it a try, please." Whoa, if Sean was my dad, my life would be fantastic. I smiled from ear to ear, seeing him bewildered. In my head, I instantly began planning their first date. Eek! This was the most exciting thing ever! But my good mood soon evaporated, as waiting for me on the doorstep with crossed arms and a stern expression was my mom. This was definitely not the time to introduce them, so I quickly thanked Sean and hurried inside.
"Who's that man?"
she questioned me.
"I received a call from Miss Barnes, so I've been waiting for you. Who is that stranger?"
"He's my karate teacher. He's just—" Then Mom interrupted me.
"Why exactly is a man double your age choosing to spend time with a teenage girl?"
"Don't worry, Mom. When you meet him, you'll see what a great guy he is." The next day, I arranged for them to have a lunch date at this quaint cafe in town. But the moment Mom walked in and saw him, she turned ghostly pale. Sean was also surprised. He stuttered,
Louise?
My mom cleared her throat.
Ahem! Sean?
This was confusing. I looked back and forth at them as if I was watching an intense game of tennis. So, they knew each other? Oh well, less time wasted on getting to know each other. So, I'm gonna leave you to it. I waved at them, then hurried out of there and sat on a bench nearby. But it hadn't even been 5 minutes when Mom stormed over.
"Let's go!"
and dragged me away.
"I forbid you from seeing that man again!"
What was happening? I was freaking out as I followed her. "Mom, slow down! At least explain why!" I shouted, but she bundled me into the car, then drove off, red-faced and silent. Through the car window, I saw Sean run outside of the cafe and stare at me with a saddened look on his face. "Mom, you know him?" I asked. She said, "That's none of your business. You just have to know that you are not allowed to see him ever again." "Why?" I yelled as I started tearing up. "He's nice to me. Why can't I be friends with him?"
"Because you have to listen to your mother."
Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Sean. I picked up, and he told me to turn the speaker so he could talk to Mom.
"Louise, it's me, Sean."
Mom gave a startled yelp and told me to hang up, but I ignored her. Sean continued.
"Louise, listen. Is Nicole my daughter?"
What? Did I hear him right? Can someone please explain what was going on?
"Louise, tell me. Is Nicole my daughter?"
Mom snatched the phone off me, ended the call, then threw it onto the back seat. I was too overwhelmed to find any words to say, so we both sat there in shocked silence. The moment we entered our house, seeing that I was desperate to speak, Mom spoke up first.
"Nicole, please don't ask anything. I'll explain later, okay?"
I really wanted to know what had happened between them, but I knew there was no reasoning with Mom when she was being like this. So I quietly went up to my room. I couldn't sleep, as too many thoughts were buzzing around my head. Could Sean really be my dad? I mean, I'd never met my real dad, and whenever I asked Mom about him, she got super defensive. Mom and Sean clearly had history. So what if we're actually related? Unsurprisingly, I couldn't concentrate in school. I kept on yawning in class and playing over yesterday's events over and over in my head. When school's out, To my surprise, Sean was waiting for me at the school gate. We went to a coffee house, and there he told me the truth.
Back in high school, I fell in love with my classmate. After a while, she suddenly told me she was pregnant and broke up with me. I definitely wanted to support and care for both of them, but she refused, then moved away. The last thing she told me was to stay away and never ever look for them.
Before I had time to process his words, he smiled at me and continued.
Nicole, I believe that you're my daughter. But first, we need to talk to your mom and have her clear this up.
Whoa, this was a lot to take in. But at the same time, it was also pretty awesome. I was so happy I had a father. And better still, it was Sean. I took Sean to my house to talk to Mom, but just as we stepped inside, I got a message from Olivia. Check your social media. Cynthia's just posted something about you. Oh no! There was a photo of me getting into Sean's car with the caption, "Need tips on getting a sugar daddy? Ask Nicole." I freaked out. Now, thanks to Cynthia, everyone would misjudge me and make fun of me. I was so furious that when Mom walked over, I couldn't hold it in anymore. This is all your fault! Now everyone believes lies about me, and it's all because you won't tell me the truth. Mom gave me this hurt look, sighed, and softly said,
You're right. I do owe you both the truth.
Then she turned to Sean.
When I told you I was pregnant, that was a lie.
What? How could she lie about something like that?
I didn't want to be with you anymore, but I was too scared to break up with you decently. So I made that story up, believing that it'd scare you away. But when you said you'd stick around and support us both, I panicked. So I moved away to college and found a new boyfriend. Then I fell pregnant with Nicole. But this boyfriend wasn't ready to be a father, so he abandoned us both.
As I tried to absorb this new information, I found myself feeling an overwhelming sense of disappointment. Perhaps Sean felt the same, as he muttered out,
I can't be around you right now. Goodbye, Louise.
Then he left. My world had come crashing down around me. I didn't know what to do or say, so I just locked myself in my room and sat there in silence. A few days later at school, Olivia came running over to me and blurted out, Have you heard? Cynthia's been suspended for spreading false rumors about people. Now everyone knows that she's a liar. Well, I'm glad everyone knows, but honestly, Cynthia and her fake stories didn't really bother me anymore. I had bigger things to worry about, like Sean. I hadn't heard anything from him since Mom's confession, and I really hoped he was okay. Then, a week later, Sean texted me.
Nicole, I care for you as if you were my own daughter. I don't want to lose you from my life. There's more. I've done some research, and I've found your dad. If you want, I'll take you to meet him.
Gulp! I was finally going to meet my real dad. On the way there, Sean lightened me up chatting about guitars and tuning on Joy Division. It was so good to have him back in my life. I guess it's normal for kids who don't know a parent to imagine what they'd be like, right? Well, when I came face to face with my real dad, the reality didn't match my expectations. I showed him a photo of me and Mom, and he denied ever knowing her and slammed the door in my face. Ouch. Sean made sure I was okay, then drove me back. The moment I arrived home, I flung myself on the couch and cried into the cushion. He must have filled Mom in on what had happened, as she rushed over to me.
Honey, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault, because I'm a coward who couldn't deal with my own issues. But things will be different from now on. I promise.
Then Sean knelt down next to me.
Nicole, I meant what I said before. I view you as a daughter. And if it's okay with your mom, I'd love to be your dad.
Mom nodded her head and said,
Yes, if that's what Nicole wants.
I leaped up and hugged them both. At that moment, I realized I don't care if my biological dad didn't want to know me. I didn't need him, as I already have Mom and Sean. Now, my mom has learned to be brave and confront her problems instead of running away from them. She now co-parents me with Sean, and even though they aren't back together, they are great friends. And you know what? I've never been happier. Oh my, look at those dudes over there. It's so true that all men are the same. All it takes is seeing some pretty girls and their eyes immediately light up. I was about to ignore these jerks, but then this couple walked in holding hands. Instantly, the jerks started making a fuss. Ew, look! That's gross! Then they pretended to retch. Geez, these idiots needed to keep their outdated views to themselves. Well done, guys. You've just booked yourself the 99th place on the playbook. Let me show you my playbook. In here, you'll find all types of men, from nerds, hot boys, jocks, and successful businessmen, but they all have one thing in common. They are all bad. Hi, I'm Monica, and I'm a playgirl who was trained to take revenge on men. Since I was little, I was taught that all men are bad, and it's my duty as a woman to teach them a lesson, especially homophobes and womanizers. Now all that's missing is the 100th prey? Then done! Hey sis, family meeting now! Oops, duty called. Mom's gonna reveal our final mission. Now, where are my books and pens? Yeah, those two are my colleagues and also my competitors. There's Cindy, my impulsive little sister, and next to her is Grace, my older, super smart, and slightly more mature sister. As for me, I'm something in between. Not as childish as Cindy, but not as calm and collected as Grace. Oh, here's Mom. Okay, let's get to the point. So this is it, the last goal, and it's the biggest one yet. So, this time you're not working together, but on your own. This target won't be easy, but you all have your own charms, and I have every faith in you all. And the time starts now. Dennis Groff. Let's see. Oh, he's quite handsome. The son of a CEO and super rich. It figures he's a lady killer, duh. But why did Mom assign him to us? I mean, she usually just lets us set our own goals. Also, why do we have to compete against each other? Maybe it was because it was the 100th target, so she was making it extra challenging? We all love Mom and want to please her. I mean, who doesn't want to be the last one to complete the family playbook, right? I stayed up all night making a plan of action. From my social media stalking, I found out that Dennis's friend was having birthday celebrations at a bar in town tomorrow night. So, the next evening, I put on the sexiest red dress that I've bought for this specific occasion and walked confidently into the bar. All eyes were on me, except Dennis's. Excuse me? Was he going to the bar for free Wi-Fi or what? Seeing that, I took a glass of wine and gently approached him. But suddenly, a strange guy came out of nowhere and pulled my hand back. Honey, where are you going? Have a drink with me? Get out of the way. I'm busy. I was about to turn my attention back to my prey when, oops! The strange guy tripped me up, causing me to stumble onto the ground. This was so embarrassing. I guess I just have to call it a night. But suddenly, an arm appeared in front of me. I looked up and, hey, it was Dennis? I was a bit surprised, but quickly regained my confidence and let him help me up. After that, he offered to buy me a drink, and then we ended up chatting into the early hours. And jackpot! Turned out he's as big of a golf lover as I was, so I persuaded him to join a golf club with me. Ain't that a smart move? A week later, and it was progress report day. One by one, we told Mom what we'd done so far. Cindy tried hard to approach Dennis by coming to the billiard hall that he frequented, and being the typical impulsive kid that she is, she bombarded Dennis with messages on social networks. She seems to be quite optimistic, though, as Dennis responded to her quite friendly, and the two kind of vibed when it came to billiards. As for Grace, she applied for the position of assistant manager at Dennis's company. I know, Man, my sister is a genius. She even said that she already felt some chemistry going on, as he wouldn't take his eyes off of her. Mom seemed impressed with the progress we'd made so far. Everyone's attained certain achievements, but sure thing, I was still in the lead. I felt it. I don't know if I'm being delusional, but Dennis and I were getting so close, and he had also shown some gestures of concern for me. Anyway, it appears that I'll have to work even harder than I first thought to win this one. Yeah, I did used to wonder if what Mom always said about men was 100% true, and why my sisters and I had to do all this. Until one day, back when I was 16, that day, I was going into my mom's room to borrow some jewelry for catfishing when I found an open notebook on the ground. Curious, I picked it up and discovered it was Mom's diary. And it was in a tragic story. She once fell deeply in love with a man, but then ran into him with someone else. Worse, she didn't even have a chance to confront him. Instead, she got his message right away.
I knew the truth already. You're not a real woman. We're over.
Not a real woman was what that Nick called my mom. Ridiculous! Just because my mom is a transgender? She did not go through all this pain and heartache to be disrespected like that. My mom's life was tragic, like a movie. Curiously, I flipped through it all from the beginning, and my heart felt like it's actually breaking, finding out what Mom had been through. Turned out, she and Nick were part of a group of 3 back in high school, alongside Maureen. Nick and Maureen were a couple, so my mom, as Jack at that time, had to keep her love from Nick a secret and poured it all into this diary. Unfortunately, Maureen found out her secret and exposed it to the whole school, which made everyone make fun of my mom, and she had to leave in shame. After so many years, she was still not able to forget Nick, so she decided to do the trans surgery to return to find him and fight for her love. They had some happy months together, but on that one disastrous day, she found out that he cheated on her. And it was with none other than Maureen. Harsh! How can people be so cruel to each other like that? Mom was a good person, and thanks to her, orphans like Cindy, Grace, and I could have a home. I owed so much to her, which is why I was desperate to succeed at her last mission and to make her happy. Back to the mission. Everything was going great between me and Dennis. He took me to the golf club and out for dinner. For a rich businessman type, I had to admit that he wasn't all stern and serious. Actually, he was a lot of fun to be around. Then, when he dropped me off after a date, he touched my hand and said,
Monica, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, and I would like it very much if you would come and have dinner with my family tomorrow.
Whoa, this was great! I mean, this project would be way easier now I had an open invite to scope out his family. But no, what is this feeling? I had butterflies in my stomach, and my palms were sweaty. It must just be the thrill of meeting Dennis's family, right? But why couldn't I stop thinking about his cute laugh and his dreamy eyes? Oh no, I think I might have actual feelings for him. From then on, I found myself wanting to scream and throw stuff at Cindy and Grace every time I heard them bragging about how close they were getting to Dennis. I'm crazy, aren't I? Now what? Am I the predator or the prey? OMG, I'm so nervous, I literally can't stop shaking. Whoa, they looked so wealthy and classy. His parents were both really sweet, and I soon felt a lot more relaxed. We had dinner, and the conversation flowed easily. There was just one thing that kept bothering me. His dad's name is Nick? Surely this was a coincidence, right? I mean, Nick's a popular name. Something didn't sit right with me, so I knew I needed to say something to Mom. I anxiously walked back and forth until I heard her car pull up outside. Mom, is Dennis's father that man? She looked stunned, then slowly sat down, sighed, and told me everything. Just like I thought, she picked Dennis to be the 100th target, or more like a bait, just to take revenge on Nick. Furthermore, she wanted us to use Dennis to make Nick go bankrupt. But what did Dennis do? If you have a problem with Nick, then talk to him. Why drag his innocent son into it? Mom and I were having a heated argument when Cindy and Grace approached. What's wrong with you? Stop being so smitten. Mom just wants to use us as tools for personal revenge, and she doesn't love us at all. Don't be so insolent. I see that you're letting your emotions screw up your decision. Nick treated our mom badly, so his son deserves to pay the price for this. You know how much pain he caused, Mom? Don't you want to fight for her? Wow, you totally suck and are an awful person. I couldn't stay here and listen to any more of this, so I rushed out of there and went and stayed with my friend. I have no idea what I'm meant to do now. One thing's for sure. I can't go through with Mom's revenge plan anymore. Maybe I should go find Nick and ask him to sit down with Mom and talk things through. Unfortunately, I underestimated my sisters, as I was scrolling through my phone when I saw a post from Cindy exposing Dennis as a womanizing jerk who dated 3 girls at the same time. As proof, she'd inserted pictures of Dennis with each of us. Trust her to do something so childish. It gets worse, as Grace linked up with a hacker to splatter the company's website with things like, Mr. Nick Groff, the president of Groff Corporation, is a liar, traitor, and homophobe. This media crisis has caused the whole company to suffer, and now Dennis was avoiding my calls. I was hovering my finger over the call button when at that precise moment, Grace texted me, Hey sis, you better not miss the sacred moment we tick off number 100 in the playbook. The mission is over anyway. Let's just go home and make up. Mom's waiting. No way was I going to let them do this. So I immediately called Dennis and left an urgent voicemail, telling him that he needed to get his father and go around to my house ASAP. As I led them inside, Mr. Groff and Mom's eyes all widened when seeing each other. Nick stood there frozen, while Mom just asked him to leave immediately. But eventually, I managed to convince them to all sit down and sort this mess out.
Jean, I worked out straight away that you were Jack. I was shocked at first, but then I realized it didn't matter, as I truly loved you. So I just wanted to wait until you were ready to tell me.
You knew it? Impossible!
We used to be very close friends. It's really not difficult for me to recognize Jack's habits. Besides, your face still retains some of the old features.
Whatever. But I saw you with that snake, Maureen. And you even had the cheek to break up with me through one cynical text. Do you know how much pain I had to suffer to pursue you? Nick looked genuinely confused. Then things slowly revealed themselves. So Maureen was the one who sent that cruel message on that day. When she found out about my mom and Nick, she investigated and discovered that Mom was actually Jack. That day at the coffee house, she begged Nick to take her back, but he refused. So she made up some excuse to borrow Nick's phone, then sent that message to break them apart. My mom sat there in shocked silence. I guess she was processing the fact that she took revenge on the wrong person, and now she'd caused problems for 2 innocent people. I'm so sorry. I let my emotions overrule me and make me bitter. I promise I will put this right. I am Jean Wilkins, a transgender woman, and Nick Groff's ex. I thought he betrayed me, and this made me turn into an angry version of myself, who became blinded by my desire for revenge. Only, I was wrong. You see, it's impossible that Nick has any ill will toward the LGBT community, because he loved me. As for his son, Dennis, he's a good man who got caught up in the crossfire. He's never cheated on anyone, so please don't judge him for something he hasn't done. As I watched the video, I felt immensely proud of my brave mom. She'd made a lot of mistakes, but she'd publicly owned up to them, which took a lot of courage. Thankfully, the video worked. Nick's company has recovered, and Dennis's name was cleared. So, what happens next? Well, me and my sisters apologized to Dennis and Nick. Luckily, they are both very kind and understanding guys. Mom doesn't hold grudges against men anymore, and she's even started dating this lovely man named Jacob. Cindy met this sweet girl called Beverly, who, thinking about it, is pretty much her opposite, but they're actually kinda cute together. Grace is still single and focusing on her career, and me? I will never touch this ever again, 'cause I'm sticking with this prey forever.